a big improvement compared to 2020. But when it comes to South Carolina, like you mentioned, this is really where the campaign kicks off. One, the Democrats and the Biden campaign are now saying it's officially Biden versus Trump again, and they're going to take that message down there to try and bump up some enthusiasm among black voters and black men in particular. And they do have some sort of positive economic indicators that they can point to try and hammer that message home.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by White House reporter Christian Datoc. Christian, President Biden did okay with his write-in effort in New Hampshire, and now they're going to move on to where they really wanted to start the primary calendar in South Carolina.
Yeah, that's right. Joe Biden, the last numbers I've seen, pulled in about 64% with that write-in campaign in New Hampshire. It's not great. It's far short of the 80% that Dean Phillips had said the president needed to really show the country wanted him to run again.
Right.
Let's not forget Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, the last two Democrats to run for re-election as president. They got, I think, 81% and 84%. So Biden's far below that, but it's much higher than, the 8% he got in 2020, which coincidentally was about the same number of total votes that Dean Phillips got this time around.
And he was actually on the ballot that time.
That's correct. That is correct. So a big improvement compared to 2020. But when it comes to South Carolina, like you mentioned, this is really where the campaign kicks off. One, the Democrats and the Biden campaign are now saying it's officially Biden versus Trump again, and they're going to take that message down there to try and bump up some enthusiasm among black voters and black men in particular. And they do have some sort of positive economic indicators that they can point to try and hammer that message home.
So what are some of the themes that they're planning on really focusing on in the rematch against former President Trump?
Well, it's a lot of what we heard on the 2020 campaign trail. Don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. They're also going to be talking about something we heard Democrats pressing the president to drop when he was campaigning last year. I'm, of course, talking about Bidenomics. The difference now is that inflation is coming down. We got this new GDP report out on Thursday, showed a substantial growth of the economy in 2023.
Right.
And they're going to say that, look, if Republicans and Donald Trump in particular take back the government, they're going to slash your choice to healthcare options. They're going to give tax handouts to big companies and billionaires and millionaires. And that's going to roll back all the positives we've seen over the last 3 years since President Biden's been in office.
So one problem that Biden does have within his coalition of Democrats is the issue of Gaza, the war in Gaza, the Israel-Hamas war. And we're starting to see protesters interrupt Biden events. Talk a little bit about how they've been dealing with that.
Well, the campaign hasn't been dealing with it well at all, to say the least. We've seen this at least at three Biden campaign rallies. The first was in Charleston. The second was in Northern Virginia. That was by far the most organized and well drawn out activism that we had seen from the pro-Palestinian contingency.
Sure.
And the third was Wednesday at the UAW conference,
right.
Which was very important for the president because he was picking up another big union endorsement. As far as addressing the protests themselves, the campaign is saying, look, President Biden respects the right to protest as long as it's done peacefully, and we're going to communicate with these people because we recognize it's a contentious issue and feelings are hot on all sides. So they're sort of skirting the issue, and I think they're hoping that President Biden at the White House will eventually get Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, or at least the Israeli government, to roll back this initiative, and those protests just sort of fizzle out, and they can move on and campaign against Trump with a fully unified Democratic base behind him.
And I'm sure they're hoping that none of these protesters turn out to be members of the White House staff. Thank you, Christian.
No problem, Jim.
You can read Christian and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.